Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are back here live with Liezel Lane, better known as My Teen Coach, and it's myteencoach.com. Liezel, how are you?
I'm good, Jill. Gosh, you look like you're going to the beach today.
It is so hot. Do you know
Oh
my,
my gosh.
well, hold on. Yesterday it was like 70, almost 80 degrees in New York.
Wow. Well,
The
it's not that.
humidity, and today it's about 75. I'm not kidding. It's like this bizarre thing that's happening. So it's hot. Yes, I
No,
feel like it's beach
Georgia.
weather.
Georgia's different. Maybe it's coming your way.
Well, yeah, it's been cool. I guess I'm assuming you're feeling a little chill.
A little bit, yes.
Well, good to see you, and you'll have your warm weather back soon. I'm sure we'll swap.
Yeah.
So, for those new listeners out there, we're also live on the Zoomcast today. We have some screen shots here we're going to be sharing, talking about stress, resilience, and so much more. But just a little bit about yourself and your company and what you do. Would you mind giving us a little glimpse into that for a sec?
Yeah, thanks, Jill. So, Liezel Lane here. I'm the founder and the CEO of myteenlifecoach.com. We're based in Georgia, but we work internationally. And we specialize in working with teenagers, young adults, and the parents and families of teenagers and young adults in literally all areas of their life. And that stems from school to making friends to managing time, building life skills, getting ready for college, managing conflict within parent and family structures, and also just dealing with like the new stuff that comes up, in society from a day-to-day standpoint. So you can reach us at www.myteenlifecoach.com. You can also text or call us at 770-235-8202. And just recently, we joined Numi.com, and so we're actually on their what do you call that? Like registry or their coach list as well. So if you miss all of that, you can also find it on Numi.com.
Perfect. Well, it's exciting to have you here. And I know I met with one of your other coaches a few weeks ago as well. And you clearly are doing great things and helping children and their families out. And for today, I'm assuming it's a stress and resilience check type of topic.
Yeah, I was thinking we could actually do this exercise with the audience and with you, even like you'll be able to actually do this. I thought a good way to spend 30 minutes together would be to actually do what we would do the walkthrough on a stress and resilience exercise.
Sure.
And this is good for if you're listening, or um, I will describe it to you, but you'll also be able to find these diagrams on our website. And I just think it does not just benefit teenagers, but it actually is relevant for everybody. So I thought I would just jump in and talk about that today.
Absolutely. Let's get started. Go for it, babe. I'm here.
All right. So I'm going to speak as if nobody can see the screen. So for those of you who are just listening and you would like to take part in this, you can actually just take a piece of paper and you can draw an X and a Y axis. So if you're on the X axis, you can put the numbers 0 at the far left and number 12 all the way to the far right. That would be at the end of that axis, and call that your stress level. And then on the y-axis, we're going to talk about our performance level. The reason why we draw this particular thing as a stress and resilience check is because psychological resilience is actually defined as a group of mental processes or stamina or strength of muscle that an individual develops or grows or practices to be able to protect themselves from potential stressors. So when we look at what needs to be addressed, we need to look at where we are to begin with. So on this X and Y axis, I'd like you to draw a bell curve, so like a little mound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to kind of talk you through a couple of things. So imagine you were at the corner of that X and Y axis, and you're at like zero stress, and 0 performance level. In other words, another word for the performance level might be activity or the doing of stuff. Okay, so imagine you're at 0 on both of those things. A
Yeah.
good way to recognize this is if you were watching The Simpsons and you could imagine, what's the dad's name?
Homer.
Homer, yes. Imagine him laying on the couch, like couch potato, just eating chips and popcorn and watching TV and doing absolutely nothing. That would be a good visual for 0 stress, 0 activity. And if you're in that realm between 0 stress and, let's say, +1 stress, if you're going across that x-axis, then that is, with research backing us, showing us feelings of boredom, discontentment, and 0 motivation, right? It's like the longer you're on that couch, the more you don't want to do. And that is too little in terms of being able to build resilience. You're not going to build any resilience when you're in that space.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's go up a little. Let's add some activity or some action. Let's say that as a parent, you get off the couch and you start mowing the lawn, or you're actually going to your job every day and you're actually earning some good money, or you are pursuing your career. If you're a teenager, maybe you are actually getting up, going to school,
Yeah.
looking at your grades. In other words, adding some stress. So, stress in this case is positive stress. It's
Mm-hmm.
about building engagement, motivation. You start to feel more satisfied because the more you're achieving or becoming in control of your space and time, you feel more connected, and you are building resilience. You're building with additional stress, you're building that muscle of being able to manage stress when you're adding stress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds counterintuitive, but it actually all works together. When you're taking a few more risks, when you're doing that test and you're a little bit nervous, but then you pass it, that builds something in you. It builds that muscle of resilience. In other words, being able to then address a similar situation in the future and not be as nervous or stressed about it. So now we're going up on that curve and we're climbing that little mountain. When you're like, I would say 80% up that mountain, now you're at a performance level that's kind of high. So you're very busy. Your time is filled up. You are not sitting idly at all, but you're getting enough rest. You're getting enough downtime. And they say in the research that your stress level is now at a 5, between a 5 and a 6 out of 12. So that's like half of that stress at its highest, when 12 is at its highest level. This is, and on the diagram, you'll see we draw a blue bar in that particular area, and we call that the comfort zone. This is when you are active and busy enough where there is no negative stress happening. In other words, you're not feeling any anxiety. You don't feel, you still feel like you're taking care of yourself. You've got a good appetite. You're able to socialize with people. You're not feeling any negative stress. You're in a really comfortable, good place. So let's see, what would a good example of that look like? That would be like my week, for example, where I have clients from morning to day, morning to night, and dinner is taken care of. There's no drama happening with the kids, and everything's just going along really smoothly. That is what we call the comfort zone. If it's a teenager, there's no friend drama that week. Everything's just going along. There's nothing that is cropping up that is taking
There's not.
anybody off guard,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So that's what we call the comfort zone. Now, that is a good
Nice
energy
to.
or stress or
Mhm.
performance level, right? That's good. However, it's not optimal. So a lot of people, when I explain this to them, they're like, what do you mean that's not optimal? Isn't that what we're going for?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to push it just a little bit more, and we're going to go to the top of that bell curve, to where the peak of that bell curve is. That is when your stress level is actually at like a 7 out of
Okay.
12, and your performance level is at its height. So in this case, I kind of think about gymnasts or athletes. This is where they are performing at their absolute peak. There's a little bit of nervousness, there's a little bit of adrenaline, there's a little bit of that edge that's holding them there. And so that when you're achieving, you get those those good happy hormones start to release your inside your brain, and that's what we call the optimal
Yeah.
part of being able to perform and manage your stress in a productive way. Now, on this curve, you're going to start to see that it starts to decline after that. But let me just hold that space right there. At that optimal level, it means that you feel that you have enough structural support in your life. In other words, you feel on top of your education, for example, you're on top of your schoolwork, you're on top of your career, you're doing really well at work, you are feeling positive in your environment. So your home life feels good, your work life, the actual environment feels good. You are in a healthy place as far as your environments are concerned. Also, your social support is good. Family's good, friends good, you've got mentors, you've got great colleagues, there's community connections. It means that you feel really good about your skill levels, the things where you are really looking to build, whether it be, technical skills or whether it's emotional skills. You're able to regulate your emotions. So in the life of a teenager, for example, this would look like I can control my anger. I don't get overly emotional about certain things. I feel really good about where I'm stretching myself academically.
Mhm.
Like, let's say I did the ACT, and I was a little nervous. I'm still a little nervous about what those scores are going to look like, but I feel good about it, right? And also, most importantly, when you're at that optimal level, so at that 7 out of 12 as far as stress goes, and at the peak of your performance, your self-care is good. You're
Okay.
managing your stress, you've got healthy boundaries, you are advocating for yourself,
Mhm.
to relax, you can control your moods. There's time for fun, there's time for relaxation, environments are positive. You are taking charge of that from a self-care perspective, right? So outcome for this, as you can see on the picture, that you're engaged, you're motivated, you're alert, you're challenged, you're growing. And that's what we like to go to. That's when I am working with clients. Every time that we have our session, we start on this stress and resilience check curve. And we look at where their stress responses are. And where I love for my clients to be is at that particular optimal level.
No.
So now we go to where it starts to decline and starts to work against you. So anytime that your stress levels are at a 9, between 9 and 12 out of 12, so 9 out of 12 or 12 out of 12, you now have too much stress. And this is when you start to feel fatigue, where you start to
Mm.
feel irritable, where you can feel emotionally reactive. For example, I'm working with parents right now who are continuously defensive on their calls with me because they are emotionally reacting out of stress.
Mhm.
You start to see scattered thoughts, panicky type of behavior, anxiety starts to go up, you start to feel inefficient. So another example of this is My daughter, for example, got into her first car accident yesterday.
Oh,
And of course, her stress is going to be high. Of course, it's like first time for everything. But that on top of school, on top of feeling exhausted, on top of feeling sick, because, those dorms, their windows don't open. So you
yeah.
can imagine, right? So yes, she's starting to feel inefficient because she's behind on her homework. She's not able to chunk her time out more effectively. That's because there's just too much on her plate. And for very, very many of us, we become exhausted because we've got so much on our plates and we don't know what to pull back. So when you're feeling these things and add on to that, now you start
Mhm.
to get physical responses, right?
Yeah.
You start to not feel well, you're getting sick more, you've got those feelings of burnout, you're feeling drained, you don't want to get up in the mornings, you are unable to like be present in conversations, so you're
Mhm.
not really thinking very clearly. Some folks start to alienate themselves, so they'll start to pull back and isolate. And then, of course, there's that feeling of numbness, the way my daughter often will express that in her languages. I just feel dead. I just
Aw.
feel dead. I'm exhausted. I just feel dead, right? And when clients engage with us and they're at that 9 to 12 stress level, that's when we need to start looking at the checklist of what needs to scale back, what needs to go back to what that 8 or 7 stress level looks like.
Mm.
So here is a thing that we can do now. So I want you to, and Jill, you can for sure do this. If you look at that particular diagram, where would you say your stress response level is right now?
Mine is always at least at a 5. I don't know if it's ever, well, I say it's too little. I wish I could experience too little stress, to be honest. But I
Mhm.
feel like I'm always stressed. So I think I gotta be a higher number than. But
Yeah, you
because
might be higher than,
I just
yeah.
think like medium halfway in a sense is like a 6, right? So I'm like, ah, I'm about there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's optimal. I feel like it's too much. So I think I'm gonna have to go like to a higher number, like 9,
Okay.
because but I'm always that way. I never get out of that area. I'm
Mm,
always stressed, always on the go, always worried.
yep,
And it's
that's
not a
it.
good place. It makes me sick. It doesn't make me
Exactly. So here's a checklist. So let's go through this checklist together.
okay.
And the audience can do this too. So just like Jill was like, yeah, I like to think like that I'm a 5, but honestly, when I look at all the
Yeah.
descriptors there, yeah, most of us, especially with young kids and full-time job, and whether you're a single parent or ambitious or all of those things, like if you're a 9 or up, then let's go through this next part together.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to look at what places we can build resilience through a well-balanced combination of these things, right? So let's look at from a structural support perspective. The question is, and everybody can just kind of do this on their own. Do I feel that I have enough knowledge for what I'm doing? In other words, do I feel that I have enough parenting knowledge? Do I feel that I have enough subject matter knowledge? If you're a school student or a college student, if you're at work, do you feel that you have enough knowledge around being able to do your job properly, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that you can create your own scale for that, or you can just make it a yes or a no. All right. The next one is, do you feel supported at work? Do you feel that you are supported by your boss, by the workplace environment, by the physical space? Do you feel supported by your work? The third one is, do you feel that you engage in positive places, whether it's visiting with friends on the weekends, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's going roller skating, whether it's hanging out at a craft event, anything that's a positive place? Do you have positive places in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is identifying what environments in your life right now are not healthy. So if you have a pen with you, just write down like in my environments, whether at work, play, school, what environment feels unhealthy for me right now. So
Mhm.
that's your first bubble that I call structural support. Okay. Now let's look at social support. Do I feel supported by my family? Do I feel safe? Do I feel that I can be me? Do I feel that
Mm.
my family is in my corner?
Mm.
Do I feel that my family gives me um, that sense of belonging? All right. The second part of social support is friends. Do
Mhm.
I surround myself with
Right.
friends that are good for me, right? Are they pro-social friends? Do they bring out the good in me? Are they good influences or bad influences? Colleagues, do I like my colleagues? Do I feel like my colleagues support me? And with colleagues, that can also be like, people that I'm in class with in group projects, for example. Is there backstabbing? Is there gossiping? Is there just this toxic environment? Or do I feel like we are cohesive?
Yeah.
Mentors. Do I have mentors in my life? Is there someone in my life that I look up to who teaches me what that next thing is in my life?
Mhm.
And then community, right? Am I part of a church or a spiritual practice or a garden club or volunteering at the food bank? Do I have community in my life? So that's the social support part.
Okay.
Now let's talk about skills. Do I feel like I can manage my thoughts? Yes or no? Do I feel like I can manage my emotions?
Mhm.
Yes or no? Do I feel like I can regulate my emotions? In other words, if I figure out in a moment that I'm really frustrated, am I able to step back, take stock, and then reassess and reapply myself?
Okay.
Do I feel that I can engage socially? Do I feel confident enough to be able to engage socially? How do I feel about my financial skills? Do I have any empowerment as far as my own control over my finances is concerned? What about my academic skills if you're in academia? How do I feel about my study skills? Am I able to master the content that I have to work with?
Okay.
And in the same vein, professional skills for those who are working, right? So that's the skill building side of it. Now let's look at self care. These are easy check yes or check no's. Do I have healthy boundaries? In other words, do I protect myself against toxicity or environments that are not good for me? Do I manage my time? Do I prioritize? Do I
Mhm.
advocate for myself? So if I feel like something is not right, do I assert my needs and ask for what I need? Am I sleeping? Yes or no? Am I getting relaxation time? Yes or no? Whatever that looks like. Do I get fun time? Yes or no?
Mm.
Am I
Mm.
exercising? Yes or no? Am I eating healthy? Yes or no? Am I spending any time in nature, whether it's going for walks, sitting out on the patio, whatever that looks like? And do I do what I call time in flow? So those are being involved with things where you kind of lose track of time a little bit, whether it's knitting, reading, crafts, even watching TikTok. Who knows? Who cares?
Right.
Right? It's just something that's like time in flow, right? So that's a long list of things, but out of, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, out of 30 things approximately, how did you score yourself, Jill?
I didn't really write them down. I should have really, okay, I didn't write them down.
That's okay. Like
About
it's
half.
about half.
I'd say about half. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the next step to that would be now you engage with somebody
Yeah.
to coach you through the things that you're unable to meet. And when you start to look at those things, you'll start to see that you'll move back towards that optimal level on that stress response curve.
Mm-hmm.
And those are what we call the protective factors, or the balance of those checklists is to help you kind of get back to that middle ground. And it's a very easy, quick, useful way to be like, okay, let me do a temperature check on where I am right now. So that is one of the most common tools that we use, Jill. When I'm dealing with, whether it be elite athletes, whether it be just, somebody who's just moved to a new place, or they're just trying to like figure things out, even in normal day-to-day living, or they feel like they're in a rut, like, how do I break out of this? This is one of the things that we will typically spend a whole hour going through and looking at.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Wow, that really, wow. Did you make this chart and graph and all this yourself, or is this like a standard technique that
This is a standard
what
technique,
is
so
okay?
it's definitely research based. It was designed by Nixon in 1979, but it's so many different positive psychology disciplines have kind of taken this and made it their own. I initially came into contact with this when I was training with the Youth Coaching Institute, and now I train other coaches in how to use this as part of my faculty position with the Youth Coaching Institute. And then we use this material actively with our clients. So anybody who is a teen life coach should be able to use this particular tool. And it's kind of what Cameron and I would call one of those evergreen content pieces, right? It's something that is timeless, it never goes away, and it's always relevant.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this is amazing because it really breaks everything down. You get to visually see it, to hear it. It's just so much better.
Yeah,
Sometimes than talking about. I'm like a visual person. So when I see, I believe, and I love it. That
thank
was
you.
really good today, Liesel. Thank you so much.
You're
And
so welcome.
now, to work with you, to get in touch with you, could you share how that works, please?
Mhm. Yeah. So, like I was explaining to somebody yesterday, you just have to give us a call. One of the team members will set up an exploratory call with myself or Cameron, and then from there we just kind of look at where are you in the picture, and we set up an exploratory call. We talk through those things, and then if it's a good fit and we feel like we can coach to target, that's what we call it. We coach to target. Then we engage in you. We work with you like 6 to 8 weeks is like the best period of time where you get some really good results, and then you can always go into a maintenance program from there.
Yeah.
So like if you're interested, just text or call us at 77023 let me try that one again, 770-235-8202, or just go to myteenlifecoach.com on Google. And then, of course, we're on all the different social media as well. So
Perfect.
people typically will find us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here again. As always, Lisa Lane, myteenlifecoach.com. Thank you for today's show. Very, very informative. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jill.
Great to see you.
I'm glad
And
to see you're feeling better
I
too.
am, believe it or not, after the nose surgery, but don't laugh. I got a cold now because my son came home with a cold last week. So I'm dealing with the pain of the nose, which is getting better. But now I'm sick on top of it all. So things will get better soon. Thank you.
Right.
I'm on the mend still, even
You're
though I'm a
on the
little
mend.
down. Thank you again, hun. Have a great day.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.